There was a solar eclipse in the last day or so. Trust me, this is going somewhere. And it's transiting the Taurus quadrant. That's not a real thing. Whatever. There's a solar eclipse in Taurus. Basically, you got to figure out where Taurus was when you were born, and then kind of like that's sort of what this solar eclipse means. And so Taurus, when I was born, was in this place of like thinking and philosophy and like this means in my moment that I'm like kind of having a reckoning around what is my philosophy, what is my frame of mind and thinking. And it kind of relates to a conversation I was having pretty recently on a sister or brother podcast about class reductionism and versus, I guess, identity politics. And it's a topic I care a lot about, and it's a topic that I have not talked openly that much about, but I feel like if you know me and you know this show, and if you've listened to any of the guests that I've had on, you'll know a couple things about me. You'll know that one, I am very much action first and ideology second. I'm not an ideologically driven person, very much more a strategic person. Maybe that makes me a big old centrist Dem. I don't think so. I think it's someone who wants to win, at least in my lifetime, on a number of levels. So I never try to give my audience or my listeners purity tests. But if you also listen to everyone I've had on, you understand that there is a big theme, and that is real intersectionality, truly understanding the way that race and class and gender and sexuality and all of our different identities intersect and interplay because we have been so divided by what Bell Hooks, the late great Bell Hooks, called white-supremacist capitalist patriarchy, which she did not see as being able to be separated from one another. Now, here's the reality of what's going on the left. On the left, in some social movements, some organizing, and some on a lot of online left spheres, which is that shit is done. Like identity politics, that's over with. And I understand why. I think a lot of people were radicalized by, I think a lot of people were politicized by Obama. I think a lot of people put a lot of stock in Obama. Me, I knew we were going to be disappointed, very disappointed. I was politicized and radicalized a lot earlier than that. And a lot of people, they don't mean to, but they play into a little bit of like, thanks, Obama, but from the left. And I understand that the Democratic Party weaponizes identity politics and woke washes, so to speak, which is the only time I will say woke. Woke washing is very real. Movements like the Black Lives Matter movement and other movements as well. And I understand the ways we're supposed to Yaz Queen someone who we fundamentally might disagree with, like our Vice President Kamala Harris. It's all BS. Our job is to not conflate, in my opinion, that attempt at low-hanging identity politics fruit with a real holistic struggle for racial and economic justice, okay? And the more we only dunk, like I love dunking on the Yaz Queens and it's so funny, and the Yaz girl boss bitch, I do think it's funny, but at a certain degree, I'm like, yeah, but there is legislation after legislation robbing women of their basic human rights right now. So like it's all funny when Democrats do it, but this shit is real, and that these struggles are radical as fuck. All right? I feel like we don't have a lot of mentors on the left, and I feel sad about that. Now, all of this is to say I'm a Marxist. Of course I'm a Marxist. Identity politics was coined by Black radical feminists, avowed Marxists, who did not feel like they belonged either in the women's movement or in the Black Power movement or in a lot of socialist organizations that kept on telling them, shut up about your identity because we're only about class struggle. That's all it's about. And so the particularities of the way that you are oppressed, which, yes, intersect with class, you need to shut up about. Barbara Smith, who endorsed Bernie Sanders. Oh, what a lib. who coined identity politics, part of the Combahee River Collective. I urge everyone to read it. So not only is class reductionism ideologically wrong, in my opinion, but it is also, and this is the last thing I'll say, out of step with where the majority of Americans in this country are. You might think it's lib, you might think it's centrist, but the reality is massive amounts of multiracial young folks were out on the fucking streets because they killed an unarmed black man. You would not have seen that 30 years ago. You're not seeing solidarity marches. We are at a moment that cannot be ignored and should not be ignored. By the left, obviously by centrist Dems it is, but by the left it cannot be and it should not be. This is not weak sauce identity politics. It is radical. And you're going to be irrelevant if your politics does not incorporate that. And finally, I'll just say, if you think you understand capitalism and you're a big fucking anti-capitalist, oh yeah, you're a big commie, you're a big socialist, whatever you think you are, and you believe that racism and capitalism can be separated, then you have no idea of which you speak, because you have no idea how capitalism formed in the majority of the country on the backs of indigenous bodies, of black bodies. That was part of it. That was the whole fucking structure. That is all I will say. Please do not make yourself vulnerable to retrograde thinking. Please read people like Bell Hooks, like Robin D.G. Kelly, like Max Elbaum, who is my mentor, who I've had on this show many times, who wrote an entire anthology of the ways that Marxist-Leninist, dogmatic, cadre organizations fucked up in the 70s, man. Really fucked up. And we're about to talk with a labor writer and historian who is lifting up a lot of the stories of women, people of color, LGBTQ plus folks, the disabled. And the labor movement has absolutely been guilty of missing out on opportunities because they're too busy dividing themselves in terms of like not taking racism and sexism seriously enough, right? It was a long time when the labor movement did not want to organize undocumented workers or immigrants. Hello, Cesar Chavez. Why do you think that was such a radical new movement? It's because he was iced out of everywhere else. So just something to chew on for the class reductionists in the audience. And if I'm speaking to no one, then fuck, man, you've been listening to the right podcast. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.